This is episode 49 of the Fitness in Post podcast. To access the show notes for this episode, please visit fitnessinpost.com/49. Before getting to today's episode, I'd like to thank our sponsor Geek Desk, who produces one of the highest quality height-adjustable standing workstations on the market. I own one myself, and I love the fact that I can choose to sit or stand at the simple push of a button. They are super durable, yet they're light enough that I've carried them myself and set them up on my own at several job locations. To learn more about Geek Desk, visit fitnessinpost.com/geekdesk. My name is Zach Arnold, and I'm the creator of Fitness in Post. You may know me as Empire Editor on Twitter. I spent the last 10 years working long hours in a dark room and battled numerous health problems because of my less than ideal work environment, and that's what led me to building Fitness in Post. Whether you work in film and television post-production like me, or you're a designer, programmer, or anyone working a sedentary job all day, we bring you the practical tips, tools, and resources to bring health and wellness back into your life. You spent all day fixing it in post, now it's time to Fitness in Post. Hello and welcome to the Fitness in Post podcast, where it is my mission to share the best resources that I can find to help you optimize the best operating system that you have on the planet, yourself. My guest today is Ken Bell. After adopting an American Foxhound Pointer mix named Max from a local shelter, Ken Bell decided to combine his skills as a filmmaker with his immense love of all things canine to create the very best dog video series and website on the web. Ken christened it the Dog Files, made Max the mascot, and began to travel around the country documenting how involved dogs are in our lives. Recent projects include Animal Planet USA's Hero Dogs of 911 special, in which he was the executive producer and director, as well as a new documentary that Ken is writing, directing, and editing for the ASPCA. This episode is all about Ken's journey to lose, gain back again, and then lose upwards of 75 pounds at a time. We talk about the strategies he's used over and over that didn't work, and why this time the weight is staying off and what he's doing differently. But before we get to our interview, I wanted to let you know about a couple announcements. First, I'd like to remind everyone about this month's giveaway for a free Geek Desk height-adjustable workstation valued at over $1,000. To learn more about how to enter and win, just visit fitnessinpost.com/win. Next, I'd like to remind all of my loyal listeners about using our special Amazon link to make all of your Amazon purchases to help support the Fitness in Post program. All you have to do is visit fitnessinpost.com/Amazon. That's it. Super simple. Amazon will then donate 5% of your purchase to the program, and you literally don't pay a cent. So, if you enjoy this show and you hope to hear more episodes in the future, please write yourself a reminder to bookmark fitnessinpost.com/Amazon as your new Amazon homepage. And I thank you so much for your support. And now, without further ado, my interview with Ken Bell. I'm here today with Ken Bell, the creator of the website and video series The Dog Files and Dog Files Media. He's a documentary director, and he's frankly just a bit of an everyman as well. Director, writer, producer, editor, cinematographer. I'm sure at some point he's been a runner and he's been the janitor. And in the world of documentaries, you kind of have to do all of it. And I can feel that pain very much firsthand, and I know what it feels like to go through that. So you name it, and Ken has done it. So Ken, welcome to the show today.
Hey, great to be here.
So as we've talked about, and as anybody that listens to the show regularly knows, we obviously do like to talk about post-production, but it's really more about the focus on trying to find a way to live and be healthy while still working a busy schedule in the world of filmmaking, post-production, just the world of being sedentary in front of a computer or whatever it is. So I want to talk a little bit about what you do on a daily basis, what your schedule looks like as a producer and filmmaker and director, and then just kind of go into some of the struggles you've been through in the past with your health and some of the things you've done to overcome them. And hopefully along the way, we'll inspire a few more people to go ahead and take the same direction. So let's just go ahead and start, and let's talk a little bit about what you do. And what I also want to point out ahead of time is that not only are you a documentary filmmaker, but you're doing projects that really make a difference in the world. And those are the things that I really gravitate towards. So it's not just, well, I make movies for a living. It's that I'm doing things that make a difference and help people and help animals in your specific case. So talk a little bit about what you do for a living.
Yeah, I guess it was about 7 years ago I started the Dog Files. I was basically sitting around doing a lot of client work, a lot of corporate work. I basically had nothing where I did it all, where I had the final say, where no one told it, no client came in and said, change this or change that. I mean, one of the biggest frustrations I'm sure everyone has is they never tell the electrician and the plumber or the construction worker what to do. But if you're creative, they will tell you how to design that logo. They will tell you how to edit that piece. They will tell you how to film it. They will tell you everything. And they've never done it once in their lives because everyone innately believes they're creative. And that is one of the biggest issues, I think, with actually being a creative. I wanted to do something that I could, and I'm a perfectionist. Not that I ever get anything perfect. I just always strive for it and never really get there, I don't think. But I wanted to do something that I could be in control of. Now, I couldn't make a major motion picture. I don't have 50, 100, 200 people. I don't have millions of dollars. But I had recently adopted a dog, and he really changed my life and just added this element. It's hard to even describe what he did to my life. I said to myself, I could do something as good as Animal Planet, because that's basically your only frame of reference for something on television about animals. I think I could do as good, or I think could do better. And so I sat down, I came up with the website, and I started doing the video series where we went across the country and we filmed people that were helping animals. Our motto quickly became showing the world that dogs deserve our love, care, and respect. I kind of thought that was obvious, but when I went across country and I met all these people and I saw all this dog fighting going on and abuse and horrible things going on, I realized, wow, we've come very far as a civilization, but we haven't gone far enough. And that's just the United States. We're doing pretty good compared to a lot of the rest of the world. I mean, they just had a meat festival, a dog meat festival in, I believe it was China a few weeks ago. 10,000 dogs or more killed and eaten. So I decided to get into that. I did one episode called Hero Dogs 9/11, which is basically just FEMA photographs, which we all own because it's government has them. And I found FEMA photographs of the search and rescue dogs in 9/11. And so I made a really beautiful, nice episode out of that for the Dog Files. And then I got contacted by a production company and they wanted to do an hour show about it. That show, finally, I was one of the directors. I was executive producer. That show finally wound up on Animal Planet. I believe it's on every year on Animal Planet. It started out Animal Planet Canada and now Animal Planet USA. And then from there, the ASPCA saw it and they contacted me 2 years ago to do a documentary for them, which is they started an animal behavioral research center in New Jersey where they're the number one reason dogs are returned after they're adopted when they're returned to shelters is because of the fear that they have. And the fear either makes them nip or bite or hide in a corner or in a closet or pee on the ground, and people return dogs. So they wanted to spend a few years doing an actual study to try and determine what was the quickest way to get rid of this fear so that they can put the knowledge out there to the whole country and the world and actually make a difference. So when they contacted me for that, I was like, I mean, that's right up my alley, obviously. And so that was pretty phenomenal. As in all documentaries, when we worked on the contract, they wanted to make sure I was at least available for 4 months of filming. Last December was 2 years, and I went there to shoot still. So that's always funny when companies think that documentaries are shot so fast. So 2 years in, I was still actually shooting on the doc. I'm in post. It's edited. We're waiting for some okays, have to do color correction and some sound work on it, but we're pretty much there. And I'm moving on to whatever's going to be my next.
It's funny that you mentioned the 4 month thing versus the 2 years. This is totally tangential to where our conversation is going, but I know there are a lot of filmmakers here. And I've told this story before, but with my documentary film, Go Far, when I was just starting, I had no idea how to make a movie, how to make a documentary, how to raise money. And I went to a seminar put on by Film Independent, which is a big organization out here in Los Angeles. And it's all these panels all day long with professional documentary filmmakers. And there was somebody that stood up. I wish I could remember who it was or what the panel was about, but it's the only line I remember from the whole day of panels. And they said, everybody here is thinking of making a documentary. And I bet that it takes you 5 years from today, if today's when you're starting, for you to finish the film. And I laughed out loud. I'm like, 5 years. Yeah, right. I'm going to be done way before then. Well, just for the record, I just released my film and I'm at year 7.5. So I can relate to the 4 months versus 2 years story. And anybody else out there that works in documentaries or independent filmmaking, I'm sure can relate to that as well. So I love that you brought that up. And the reason that I think it applies is because the amount of time that is required to be an independent filmmaker and being a documentary filmmaker takes a lot out of you as far as your health is concerned. So let's use that to segue a little bit into kind of your back history of health or lack thereof. I know that you've done a lot of yo-yo dieting and just kind of been through the ringer for years. So just kind of take us through your journey over the past, I don't know, 5, 10 years, wherever that journey starts, where you really realize that it's time to put health in the, in the viewfinder, but then you went through the process of just going up and down.
Yeah, to go back even further to put it into context, I mean, I was over 9 pounds when I was born. I always dealt with weight issues my entire life. At about 18 or 19, I dropped like 50 pounds and my life changed. And I saw things that you don't see when you're 50 pounds overweight. A lot of people don't understand that don't have this issue. How people change around you. You see it, you notice it. People think you're a little crazy or something, but they're not looking for. And I saw it completely. But then I found myself just yo-yoing over my life. Hell, if you didn't see me for 2 or 3 years and you saw me, you'd go, okay, this is the Ken that lost 50 pounds, or this is the Ken that gained the 50 pounds back. It wasn't the one that gained the 50 pounds back, because I'd gain 60 and then I'd lose 50 and then I'd gain 70 and then I'd lose 50 and then I'd lose 80, I'd gain 80. And just that vicious cycle of the yo-yo dieting. Back when I adopted my first dog, Max, about 11 years ago or so, I guess it wasn't right then, but I realized that bringing him to the dog park got me no exercise because I just stood there. And, there were other dogs there, and he was attacked by another dog. And so I finally said, all right, we're just going to walk. No more dog parks. We're just going to go for walks. And then I guess it was 5 or 6 years ago, I discovered the power of walking. So basically, I would just go out once or twice a day. Usually, I lived in New Jersey, right by New York. So because of weather, I usually just went out once a day. I now live in Orlando. So I no longer have to go to the mall in the wintertime to walk 5 miles, which I used to do. But it changed everything about me, the walking, just moving. I could do it for a long period of time, so it actually meant something. I've never been a jogger. I can't go out and run 3 and 4 miles, but I can walk 5 miles. It just changed everything. I noticed I would check my resting heart rate, and it's usually below 50. It's like 48, 49, which is like they say athlete territory, which, when I check friends that don't walk, they're like 80, 90. Even about a year or two ago, 2 of my friends that thought, big deal, you're walking, not a big deal. They noticed how I was changing. They noticed how I was dropping weight. And so I took them to the mall because it was in the wintertime. And I said, one way through the mall is a half a mile. So let's do it 10 times. And they're like, this is easy. Well, by the second mile, maybe a mile and a half, they were like, I was passing them the opposite way. And by the second mile, I saw them sitting down and they were done. So I think I kind of proved to them that walking isn't the poor man's sport, isn't the easy sport, but it's something that's really healthy and it doesn't really do a lot of wear and tear on your body. I found you still have to rest, you still have to give yourself a break, but that really started to help me a lot. Still though, I would lose the 50 pounds or 60, 70 pounds and I'd gain it back. And I found myself at 350 pounds. I found that where I really noticed it was when I was filming. When I was filming something and you want to jump around and you want to grab all these shots. I'm doing a lot of documentary work. I'm not lining up a shot with a crew and having someone do it 5 or 10 times where we get different angles. Something is happening and I need to get the shot and they're not going to do it again. I'd find myself having a hard time getting up. Then I found myself not getting down on the ground anymore to get a better shot because it hurt getting up. Just that was the real sign of, wow, this is going in a bad direction, going in a really bad direction. So I decided I needed to do something. And after doing all this different dieting, I last year, I came apart. Now, what happened was I was 350. I dropped down to 250 and I went back up to 300. And then I found a diet called the 10-day detox diet. It's Dr. Mark Hyman. I'm looking at the book right now.
I'm a huge fan of Dr. Mark Hyman. I'm very, very familiar with his work, and he's great. So that's a great resource.
Yeah, and it's funny because there's been, there's one thing I get a lot of hell about. There's this thing on the internet where everyone always says don't take religion as science. But some people take science as religion, and I grew up in the 70s and 80s when sugar and caffeine was the worst thing you could ever have. It was just horrible. It was bad. Fat was bad. That was the other thing. Fat. Get rid of fat. Get rid of fat. Now, if you look up all the statistics, you look up all the studies and everyone's talking about now, salt's not really bad for you. Go ahead, have salt. Caffeine, not a big deal. Fat, the exact opposite now, right? Have fat, have good fats, and lower your carbs, which was kind of an interesting thing for me. Like everything just changed. Like what happened there? But that's just science going through their things, and you have to go on what's available now. I understand, but it did a lot for me because when I went on this 10-day no sugar detox, I lost the one thing that was killing me. I'd go on a diet, I'd do good all day. But I'm an obsessive person. You were talking about learning how to make documentaries. When I learned how to make documentaries, I obsessed over it. I listened to, I watched film. I watched DVD commentaries. I watched film without the sound off. I would go back and see, how was that shot done? Okay, this is, slow it down. Okay, that's how the shot was done. That's how I learned to do it. And, it was the same way with this kind of stuff. I wanted to figure out every little thing that worked. And what I found was that when I dieted regular, I ate really good all day. And then at the end of the day, I'd have a physical addiction that I had to have sugar. Now, I always kind of thought it was fat. I had to have fat because I liked cakes and cookies. And I wasn't a giant, ice cream guy or something like that, or candy. But I had to have something. And, going back to, like I said, about obsessive, if I'm in the house, I'm single, I'm sitting here alone. Well, when you're overweight and you're alone, whatever's in that freezer or refrigerator, you're eating. And you would eat one of those little Weight Watcher 100-calorie ice creams, but there's 4 in there, and I would eat all 4. And I would ruin my dieting. And then at a certain point, my body would actually battle to the point where it would just overpower me, and that would be the end of the diet. And then I'd just start eating junk again, and I'd gain the weight back and gain more back. Now, what I found in the last year on this diet was I dropped at 50. So I'm at 250 again. And still my resting heart rate is down in the 40s. So from 350 to 250, I still want to do another 50 pounds. But I don't have that urge anymore at night. Taking the sugar out. Now, I still have some sugar. I'm not 100%. At my age, I'm in my late 40s. I used to have like a cheat weekend. You can cheat the whole weekend and diet all week and you'd lose and it wouldn't affect you. If you cheat on the whole weekend at 49 years old, you will take another week just to get rid of that weight that you gained. You can't do it, but you can do a meal. Or like I don't kill myself when I go on the road for a day or two filming. I do my best, but if I'm going to have something, a piece of cake, just have it and get it over with. The idea is to go back always to ground zero, which is the 10-day detox type plan, which is very little sugar. I don't have caffeine anymore. Whenever I go to, it's funny, you go to Starbucks, you go to somewhere to get a cup of coffee. It's hard to get iced coffee that's not caffeinated. I found that's a pretty interesting thing that you can't get it. So I don't do that. My bread intake is a piece of flatbread that I have to settle that urge, but I still am so low in the sugar that when I do have something that's sugar, it doesn't bring me back to that place where I'm addicted to it again, or I feel. Now, obviously, I found I had to go to a convention 2 or 3 months ago, and it was 6 days. Try and stay on a diet when you're at a convention. It's nearly impossible.
Well, I would remove the nearly from that. It's impossible.
That's where that's where I've gotten to. I said, stop hating yourself and just live life for those 6 days. Try and grab some more fruit, try and do a few things, try and get up and get a walk in if you can or something like that. But don't kill yourself, because as long as the day you come back, you go switch right back into it. It really won't affect you. And that's probably the hard part for most people, is to go right back. Last weekend, I was in Chicago filming for 2 days for United States Tennis Association. And I had the breadsticks, and I came home the next day and I was right back on the diet. What you will find, one of the interesting things with the detox is the first 4 to 5 days. Now I've never used drugs, but like if that's what it feels like to be like detox from like heroin or something, I wouldn't doubt it, because I was miserable for 5 days. I literally sat on the couch and watched TV. I felt so bad because I had gone from having sugar and everything, because, in all those diet Weight Watcher meals, they add in sugar and take out fat. So I went from no sugar and no caffeine and no bread, no pasta, no starchy vegetables. It was just unbelievable. Then on day 5, I woke up like I could take over the world. Like I had gotten rid of that. And when I do 6 days on the road like that and I eat normal, I feel that when I get back on my diet. I feel like 2 days of not feeling that good. And then like on the 3rd day, bam, I'm back. And I'm like, oh, thank God, I'm back in that feeling. I got to get that feeling again that I got on this diet originally. And it does, and it will come back. So I'm pretty happy about that. So now I don't have that issue anymore at night where I ruin the whole day's dieting by eating junk at night. And it seems to be working really well. And I still do my walks. I walk 2.5 miles in the morning with my dog, Remy. Max died a few months ago. And then I do a 1.5 miles at night. And we get out there, and I try and get out there early, but I'm a late person. And in Florida, you want to be outside early because it gets hot in the summertime. But yeah, so I still get the walks in. I'm still dieting. To me, this is going to be the way of my life. I'll worry about eating more when I get to the weight I want. The dream would be to hit 199 for the first time in my life since I was 20 years old. When I hit 50 next year, maybe I shouldn't be telling everyone my age, but
well, too late. You did it already. So.
It's a young 50.
I'm not cutting it out.
And to try and maybe get down to 199, that would be really pretty spectacular. But I know that I'm in better health. I know that I'm a big guy. I'm never going to look like Wolverine looks in the movies. It's never going to happen, but I feel better and I feel healthier, and the food makes me feel better and I feel more present. I don't want to make people think it's like you feel like you're high, because it's not that much, but you just feel like you're more centered. Like I can deal with problems a little better. I don't freak out as much. The anxiety is a little bit less. And I feel it when I go away and I eat bad. I don't feel good. And then I come back and I get back on it and I feel better. So, I'm going to keep going on that. And after those 10 days, for the detox, I switched it up. Like he said, I did some changes. I brought in a piece of flatbread. I changed up the smoothie in the morning. I wasn't digging. I love avocados, but I wasn't liking it in my smoothie. So I took the avocado out. I took 1 or 2 things out, but I still pretty much have it. I added a little bit more fruit than I was having, because this diet doesn't want you to have too much fruit because of the sugar. So I followed it exact for the 10 days, but then I made just a few little changes. And at lunch, I have like hard-boiled eggs, a salad. I mix it up. I probably to this day don't have as much vegetables as I should. And at dinner, the one thing that really changed is I recently moved to Orlando from New Jersey. And I lived in the same place in New Jersey for 10 years. And I realized when I moved, I had never used the stove. I used the microwave for 10 years. And one of the things that the diet tells you is don't eat anything that comes from a box. Don't eat processed stuff. It's just not as good for you. Maybe it's not, a death sentence, but it certainly isn't as good for you as eating real food. So when I started the detox in January, and I dropped 50 pounds since then, I started cooking. And so every night I have a piece of meat, turkey, chicken, or steak, and 6 ounces. And then I throw in mushrooms, onions, peppers, broccoli, cauliflower. I throw it all in there, maybe throw in some almonds, and I cook it up. It's a great meal. I feel full, but I don't feel that feeling when you eat out or you eat all those carbs and you just feel like you're dead. I feel like I could eat that meal and then I could go out and do something, which is if I ate a regular meal, I'd have like pasta and bread. I'd be like, that's it for the day. I'm laying on the couch and watching TV. So I do that. And then I found a snack at night. I take a piece of flatbread, I put some almond butter on it, throw a few almonds on it, roll it up, and I have something at night if I want it. But many times I find I don't even want it. Sometimes I find myself not even hungry for breakfast because I guess I've created a stomach that's a lot smaller than it was. But yeah, so far it's going really good. I'd tell anyone. I just had someone, a Facebook friend, her and her husband started it, and they're on day 10 today. She lost 8 pounds, and she's like, I'm going to continue because she says I feel great, and that's the key. The key is you're going to make mistakes, you're going to screw up, but if you always just go back to ground zero, if you always go right back, you'll be fine. It's when you don't go back is when you gain all the weight back and everything like that. But again, taking out so much of the sugar, probably 95% of the sugar I used to have every day is gone now. Taking out that sugar for me, maybe it isn't for everyone, clearly showed me that I had a sugar addiction.
Yeah, and I think that's a really, really good place to jump in, because I think a lot of people don't realize, and if you've been listening to this show for a long time, you know that I sound like a broken record, but sugar is an addictive substance, and science has proven beyond the shadow of a doubt that it actually activates the pleasure centers in your brain 8 times more than heroin. So when you say that you went through withdrawal, you were going through withdrawal. It's not something that you made up in your mind or said, oh my God, this is ridiculous. It's just food. It's just sugar. You're going through withdrawal no different than trying to quit smoking or quit heroin or anything else. And you're going to experience the same symptoms. And there is tons and tons of science to back this up. So it's not conjecture or, theory. So it's all the information is there. I mean, it's very, very clear. And Dr. Mark Hyman is one of the leaders in the field of really showing that sugar is an addictive substance, why it's addictive, and what to do about it. I mean, one place for people to start if they're saying, well, I don't want to, read a whole book or actually do the whole diet, just watch the documentary Fed Up. I'll put a link in the show notes. This is actually one of the shows.
Yeah, it's a great doc.
Yeah, I have that on the Fitness and Post store. So if anybody wants to check that out, it's a really, really good documentary all about the food industry and very specifically about the way that sugar is processed in your system, how it works to become addictive, and how it's marketed to you, and the reason why, like you said, in the 70s and 80s and 90s, everybody was eating it in all of our foods, and it's still in over 90% of our food supply. But we were told that, oh my God, you can't have any salt, you can't have any fat, you can't have any caffeine. And those things are changing, but what people often do is they make the mistake of just swinging the pendulum from one extreme to the other. And what they don't realize is there is actually a lot of salt that is bad for you. If you get iodized table salt, you can't have a lot of that. But if you're doing a nice crystallized Himalayan pink sea salt that they literally took out of the Himalayas and put in a bottle, that still has all of the minerals. And
yeah, I use rock salt.
Yeah, exactly. So that's actual salt. When you're getting something from the salt shaker that's in the Morton's container, that's bad stuff. It's iodized, it's highly processed. It's the equivalent of Wonder Bread just for salt. So when you say, oh, I can have salt now, you got to be really careful. Same thing goes for fat and caffeine, where if you're getting your mocha latte caramel frappuccino and you're saying, well, caffeine's not bad. Yeah, but the 400 calories of garbage that's in it, that's still bad. But if you're having a black coffee that's caffeinated, caffeine in and of itself in moderation is actually considered a smart drug and can actually be tremendously beneficial for focus and for motivation. And the caffeine in and of itself is fine. And the same goes with fat. If you're saying, oh, fat's good, I'm just going to have a big stick of processed butter, or I'm going to have fried foods now, once again, it's that pendulum swinging to the other end of the spectrum. It's all about understanding and learning what are the good fats that I should be eating. Avocado, if you just sat there and looked at the food label, like if you looked at the nutrition information on an avocado, this is actually something that I do. I have a blog post that I'll link to that's a book review of the book called Rich Food, Poor Food. And what it does is it shows the nutrition labels between a box of, Weight Watchers Oreo cookies and avocado. But if you just look at the labels without knowing the product, you'd say, oh my God, this thing with all this fat and calories, this has got to be horrible for me. But this other one is very low in fat and low in sodium, and it's only 100 calories. This is the good one. And then you look at the ingredients and you look at the product and you say, oh, maybe the avocado isn't as bad as I thought it was. So it's all about educating yourself on the good fats, because I'm always very careful when people are like, oh yeah, salt is back and fat's back. It's like, well, you got to educate yourself first. And it sounds like that's something that you've absolutely done.
It's funny. I lost 50 pounds eating an avocado every day and a 6-ounce piece of steak. If that doesn't tell you something, that there's obviously something to this. One of the things that Mark Hyman talks about is that sugar is 8 times more addictive than heroin to mice. in studies, which is kind of amazing. And I've always been I've always, because a lot, when you get into health, there's a lot of pseudoscience, right? There's a lot of do this or do that, and is there really any science behind that? I don't know. So one thing I was always very hesitant about was everyone screaming about diet soda being bad for you. And in the book, it was the first time it was explained to me, like, reasonably. I like reasonable. I'm not a black and white kind of guy. I know everything is spaced out in grays, and with anything I do, I never want to be too far on one side or the other. I want to find somewhere where it's like, makes some sense. And what he said in the book was simply, your body doesn't know the difference between diet soda and regular soda. It will react the same way. So if you're addicted to sugar, which I could tell you the only way to really know if you're addicted to sugar is, one, do you have those urges that just pull you off the diet at the end of the day where you have to have something sweet, and then doing the diet and seeing if you feel a lot better. So basically it does the same thing to your body. So if you're addicted to sugar, diet soda will kick that addiction back in, because, when you start drinking it, you start having it with all your meals. I never thought I would be the kind of person that has water all day. And, when I go to Starbucks, I have a decaf coffee. One of the things that actually, half my time at Starbucks is working on my computer, and the other half is watching people walk out with the biggest drink full of such junk and like big whipped cream on it. And it's basically probably more calories than I have in a day. And I'm still shocked to this day, like, that people like have this thing. It's just, how is that? I don't even understand how it's refreshing. It must be more sugar than I have in a week.
Well, it's refreshing to them in the way that heroin is refreshing to an addict, where all of a sudden it gets in your bloodstream and you're like, oh, okay, now the anxiety is going away and now I have my fix for the day. It's no different. It's just that the vast majority of people don't have the education to know that that's actually what's happening. And also with diet soda, the other thing that people don't realize is they say, well, if you're saying sugar is so bad, if I have the Diet Coke rather than the regular Coke, well, I've eliminated the sugar. So what's the problem? All you've done is replace the sugar with a processed, synthesized chemical version of sugar, which would be an aspartame or a sucralose or other form of artificial sweetener, which, number one, has been proven to actually have a higher glycemic index, meaning that it spikes your blood sugar even more and spikes your insulin response even more. But what it also does is it completely screws up your digestive system and your gut biome, which is basically a fancy way of saying like the gut bacteria that you have and the balance of good bacteria versus bad bacteria. So now not only are you just addicted to the artificial sweetener, but you're now destroying your digestive system, which regulates your immune system. It regulates your moods, your serotonin intake. There are entire books on just the gut biome and how it affects your health. So if you're thinking that replacing the diet soda, like, that's the thing that's going to be the difference, it's no, you just got to get rid of the soda altogether. I don't care what shape or form it's in, it's got to go.
Yeah, it definitely has. And I kind of believe that the feeling of being more centered, I kind of believe that is because I don't have those peaks that I used to have when I had all that sugar, that up and down. I don't even understand it completely, but I know that your blood sugar goes through the roof and then it drops back down. And I don't have that as much now. Well, as much. I have that barely at all. Again, I tell everyone, like, I don't want to scare people off from the diet either. You can cheat on it once in a while. You're a human being. Every week or 2 weeks, I go and have something that I just remember I liked 15 years ago. I go to that place that makes spectacular donuts, and have one of them. But I don't have it every morning. And that's the difference. I don't do it constantly, and I don't have three of them. I have one and I leave. I know I can't trust myself. I can't bring home a box of cookies, but I can go to the store and buy one.
Yeah, and that's the real key, I think, and probably the big difference maker between a lot of the yo-yoing that you did and now why this is more sustained is that it's not about a specific diet for a specific period of time that's all about deprivation. It's about creating lifestyle choices and saying, well, I'm not depriving myself of all these things for 90 days so I can lose weight. You're saying I'm changing the kinds of foods that I actually enjoy eating, and I'm on a different long-term path. And that long-term path is not going to be derailed if I eat a donut one morning a week because that's what I enjoy. But if you're on a 90-day deprivation diet and you're in day 43 and all of a sudden you eat that donut, you have so much guilt and you say, oh my God, I have failed. I was supposed to not eat any of this stuff for 90 days and I'm not even halfway through and I failed. I give up. I'm done. This just doesn't work for me, right? But what you're doing is you're saying, I'm just changing the way that I eat and the way that I live my life. And these are now my lifestyle dietary choices, not I'm going on a diet. And that to me is the real key that I found because I've gone through my own types of yo-yo dieting and I've never been terribly overweight, but I've been skinny fat. And that's kind of a term for you don't look fat on the outside, but on the inside, your stress levels are through the roof. Your cortisol levels are a mess. You have bad cholesterol.
Which is probably most of skinny America, actually. Most of the people I know that sit on the couch and eat whatever they want, but they're skinny are probably that.
Yeah, and they're just as unhealthy and sometimes more unhealthy than people that are overweight. I don't want to make that as a general comment, but it is possible to be 150 pounds and be rail thin and be more unhealthy than somebody who's 200 pounds that has a low resting heart rate and has a low cholesterol and feels good and has the energy. So it is possible to do that, but people make the judgment that, well, you're skinny, so you're healthy, and you're overweight, so you're unhealthy. And it's like you said, it's so much more gray than it is black and white, because I hate black and white as well. I think you and I, if we lived in the same area, you and I would become very good friends because we're definitely on the same page with all of this stuff. What I'd like to do now is talk about some of the things specifically that you did during the yo-yo dieting that didn't work. Because I know you've mentioned, the different things you've done in general and what worked and what didn't. But can you give me at least one example of one very specific choice of diet you made or whatever it was, or product, like you said, the Weight Watchers things? If there's something that you looked at and you're looking back and saying, oh my God, this was such a disaster. I lost 50 pounds, but then I gained 70. I just want to give people some idea of something that you did that absolutely didn't work, that sent you on the path you're on now.
I've always said I'm an expert at losing weight, but not at keeping it off. I never until this time went on an actual diet plan from a book or from TV or something like that, because it was all pretty obvious, was to eat better, eat more vegetables, eat less fat and sugar. Obviously everyone knew you're supposed to eat less sugar, but you also didn't know where they were hiding it too. And so I went on, deprivation diets where you eat a lot less calories and the weight comes off, and then you hit those plateaus. You still hit the plateaus doing it this way. You hit those plateaus, and sooner or later, something happens where you just stop and your body says, I need that stuff, and it forces you back. It feels like many times it felt in my life like it was a different entity telling me, no, you have to. And I am totally convinced that our mind and our body want us to do nothing. And I believe my theory is, and this is a theory with no education behind that at all, no science education, is simply that the safest thing to be when you were a caveman was to sit in your cave and do nothing. Because going out past that hole in the wall and anything can kill you. And I remember doing a year of Taekwondo and I lost 50 pounds. And even the leader brought me up front and everyone clapped. And then I sprained my ankle playing basketball and I never went back. I never felt better in my life than when I was doing the Taekwondo. I never felt better than when I was thinner. People acted differently. I got more work. I got more dates. Why would I want to be overweight and to not feel good and the good? And yet you constantly go back to that. And I just believe that old saying, move it or lose it. It's a battle. I'm going to win. and I'm just going to keep going forward. I've seen too many people. I've seen too many people that get old and they don't move. And then they just sit there. That is my number one fear, is losing my mind and losing my health. I want to move. I want to constantly learn. I don't want to just sit and watch the television all day and get mad at the world, And so the deprivation didn't work. Everything worked. Weight Watchers worked losing the weight. If you need to lose 20 pounds, maybe Weight Watchers is fine for you. But it was eating out of boxes. One doctor would argue with me that I talked to. He said, right now, losing the weight is more important in your health than how you lose the weight. You can determine, how you eat later, but lose 50 pounds, believe me. but it would come back because what I believe for me specifically was the fat and deprivation. Now listen, I'm still losing weight, so clearly I'm not eating as much as my body would want me to eat. I just believe it's the sugar thing. It's the sugar thing. Eat the healthier stuff and you feel better. Stay away from boxed food, stay away from the sugar. Give it a shot and see if the sugar thing works for you. Because I'm sure that it's not everybody, but I think it's a large amount of people. I bet it's 30, 40, 50%
of people.
Yeah, that have an addiction to sugar. That sugar is the reason.
That number is at least double that. And there's actually a lot of science behind it that shows that the vast majority of people at least in our society specifically, that are eating the quote unquote standard American diet, they're addicted to sugar and processed food. So it's way, 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 way higher.
And I also think that no one's moving anymore. I mean, I have relatives who have kids who literally don't know their neighbor down the road. Now, half of my childhood was great because I roamed around the woods and played and built forts and got in and baseball games down the road. And the other half is like, well, I met a bunch of people that punched me in my face and stole stuff for me. But in the end, I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't get rid of that for anything. But a lot now is spent on the computer, watching television, and especially with kids playing video games. I've been there. I've spent much time in 1 year of my life playing video games, and I gave my Xbox. So I actually still have it, but it's in my closet. It's been in my closet for like 8 years now, because it's too much. There's too much. When I was a kid, there were 3 or 4 stations, man, and if you didn't catch that movie, you didn't see that movie again. And there was the 4:30 movie. Maybe you didn't even realize that Planet of the Apes, they actually had to cut the movie down to fit into an hour and a half. But it was very rare. There wasn't that much on TV. You could do other things. Now we literally have I could literally sit on my couch and be entertained for every moment for the rest of my life without a second to spare, between the web and between the hundreds of different channels and the movies and the internet articles. And I struggle a lot with my iPhone. I spend way too much time getting those little dopamine hits of articles and people talking to me on Facebook and Twitter, and then I don't get work done, So I've actually been turning my phone off for a few hours when I'm doing some other things. Don't even it could be next to me, just turn it off. And then you'll find yourself getting into other things. But, so there's all these things we're dealing with that we didn't have 30, 40 years ago. So we're not going to really know the outcome of all these things. I would argue, find a healthy way to eat healthy, lose the weight, and move. You got to move. And a lot of people aren't going to jog. I see these people, I lost weight and I did a marathon. Never going to happen in my life. And that's fine. But I will walk 4 or 5 miles a day, and I will have a healthy heart because of it. But you've got to do these things. It's basically you do it or it's over, and you give up. And we all know people that have given up and they don't look happy at all. So
and most likely they're not going to last nearly as long either, which is one of those great motivations for making these changes. Is when you're 20 years old, nobody's going to sit you down and say, well, you need to go on a sugar detox diet and you need to be really careful about your choices because you're invincible and you're going to live forever. But all of a sudden you get to be, your age, 49, 50, and you're thinking, well, based on my past health, I keep going down the road I'm going, maybe I got 10 years left. If I'm lucky, maybe I got 15 if I'm really lucky. But then if you start making the right lifestyle choices, you may buy yourself another 20, 30 years. That to me is a pretty great motivation. One thing that I want to go back and mention, because it really just kind of, I promise I won't jump on my soapbox, but you mentioned the thing about the talking to your doctor and your doctor saying to you, it's really not important how you lose the weight. It's just that you lose the weight. And I could not disagree with that statement more. And obviously you've proven beyond the shadow of a doubt that statement is wrong too, because the big problem is that not only did you gain the weight, but you always gain back more than you had actually lost. And this is a very common problem. And this is because basically what's happening in your system is that you're resetting your hormones, right? And there's a book called The Calorie Myth. And The Calorie Myth goes through hundreds of pages of science, but it's not just like you're reading a science journal and you're thinking, oh my God, that would be so boring. It's really entertaining and eye-opening, and it explains why calorie counting doesn't work, but more importantly, why doing the type of deprivation starvation diet you're talking about, where if it's a Weight Watchers diet with processed foods and it's just calorie counting, you might lose the weight, but long term, not only are you going to gain it back, but you're actually going to maybe gain back 10, 15, 20% more. There's science behind that. So I would recommend anybody that's been through that, check out The Calorie Myth and read it, because it will explain why that's happening. And once you have the education, once you swallow the red pill, you're like, oh, I get it now. And that's where the change starts, is once you understand it.
Yeah, you have to, and with the Weight Watchers, because you're not going to do the Weight Watchers meals forever. You're just going to go back to what you originally did. And I think that's the key, because at least with the 10-day detox, it taught me a different way. Like now, I'm the exact opposite with my microwave. It is rarely on, maybe to heat up some vegetables once in a while, but it is rarely on. It's quite shocking how it's the opposite of when I lived in New Jersey and I had the microwave, used it for 10 years every day. The detox diet actually said, okay, we're not just going to lose weight, but we're going to switch you to a better way of eating that you can continue. If you're done, when you get to the point where you don't want to gain any more weight, add some more of this good stuff in. Now, at least this is the stuff that's best for you. I have a shake in the morning, right? It has blueberries. My thing after my 10 days, I throw in a banana. It has a little sugar in it. It has almond butter, pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, walnuts, unsweetened almond milk, and water and ice. And then I put it on my NutriBullet and I get it going. And I didn't even know what these seeds were 6 months ago. All I know is that I feel a lot better now. And when I have that shake in the morning, actually, the first thing I do, I get up, feed the dog, take him for 2.5 miles in the morning when it's cooler here. I get back and I'm soaked in sweat. He falls down on the ground. I take a shower, I make my drink, and I feel spectacular. And I've had no coffee. To me, that was important, because I hate the feeling when you have coffee for a long time and then you don't have coffee, that hangover feeling in the morning that you can't wake up. And that's why I didn't want caffeine anymore, because I don't want that feeling. And I feel like I had a cup of coffee in the morning by going for the walk and drinking this drink. I don't actually need. Actually, I made the mistake of buying like 100 of those little 1-packs of coffee, those little one things.
The Keurig.
I bought them like a week before I went on this diet, and they're still sitting there. And just recently, the kitchen was remodeled, and I took the coffee machine and I put it in the closet. So, I still once or twice a week, I'll have decaf at Starbucks or something like that. But other than that, I don't need it. And that's really, there's two reasons for coffee, right? The smell, the feeling in the morning of having that, and then the caffeine. But that caffeine side, that energy side, I don't need it. As a matter of fact, when I have had a cup of coffee, a regular cup of coffee, it doesn't do anything to me. I don't feel anything, because I think I'm already up there because of the other food that I'm eating.
Well, and I also know that at one point you had actually incorporated Shakeology into your diet as well. I don't know if that's something you're still doing anymore, but I know that was something you worked with for a while. So what was your experience with that?
Yeah, that's when I had started to do some smoothies. That was before this diet. I didn't feel anything. I'm one of those people, like everyone says, I did this thing and wow, I felt better. And that's never happened to me in my life. I've never changed my food and felt differently because of it. Other than the fact that probably like everyone, when you eat it like a McDonald's, that tasty food that you eat, you don't feel like you want to do anything afterward. You go, ooh, wow, in my stomach. Clearly that's not a great sign. So that changed me, but I never really felt anything. And the drink, it didn't do anything to me. So it didn't really affect me in one way or the other. I do have, when I have my shake, I do put like half a scoop of like protein powder in there. Not the whole thing, just half in the morning. It's kind of funny. The shake is like 500, 600, 700 calories in it, and I still lose weight. That's just my, it's kind of amazing.
And it's not about the calorie count. It's what the calories are that makes such a big difference.
And I don't even pay attention to the calories anymore. And I used to be like, everything, look at the calories. What is it? No. I'm still an obsessive stand on the scale guy. I will be till the day I die. But when I step on the, people like, don't step on it because you're going to feel bad if you didn't gain the weight. It's like, listen, I understand that, every 7 to 10 pounds you go through a plateau. I get it. I know that sooner or later I'm going to step on it and bam, 3 will be gone. So that doesn't really bother me. But so those are the things. I just found that I like the idea with that I knew exactly with the shake I'm making now. I knew exactly what's in it. I mean, the items I said, that's what's in it. And a little, what was the other last thing? A little coconut butter and MCT oil, a teaspoon or tablespoon of that. So I put all that in the morning. That might be the thing giving me the
Yes,
kick in the
if
morning.
you're doing MCT oil, specifically the one that I use is called Brain Octane Oil. It's from a company called Upgrade itself. That to me is as close to the limitless drug as I have ever been. And it's something that I use religiously every morning, either in a smoothie, which is actually pretty similar to yours, or I'll use it in coffee. I'll make bulletproof coffee, not every day, but depending on what I'm doing for the day, I'll kind of alternate back and forth. But I never feel like I need it. I never wake up and say, oh my God, I need my coffee. It's more, all right, well, based on today, do I need to be a little bit more high performing? Can I be a little bit more chill? But without fail, it's 2 tablespoons of the Brain Octane oil. And for those that have never heard of that and are thinking, oh my God, like, are you putting gasoline in your coffee? It's actually just a form of coconut oil that's an MCT, which stands for medium chain triglyceride. And it's very specific chain because there are different chains, like you'll have an 8 chain, 10 chain, 12 chain. Triglyceride is just a form of fat. So if you're getting regular coconut oil that you just get off the shelf, it's going to have some medium chains, it's going to have some long chains, and it's not going to be pure. And this is just highly purified. So it's only an 8 chain MCT, and that is something that's rapidly metabolized by the liver and immediately converted to energy, and specifically energy for your brain. And the first time I had it, I swear to God, it was like that scene in Limitless where all of a sudden there was more color, I was more vibrant, and I'm like, oh my God, I have all of these cool ideas, and I was so creative, and I was like, I am awake. Where did this come from? And it's not even remotely the experience you get from caffeine. So I think that a lot of the effect you're getting is from using the MCT oil or the coconut oil. So I'll put a link in the show notes to the Brain Octane. I'll put a link to the Shakeology as well. And the reason that I recommend Shakeology, I don't think it's the best product on the planet. I don't think it's the be all end all. If you take Shakeology, all of your problems are solved and you don't have to do anything else. What I like about it is that it's a good place to start if you don't know where to start. Because if you look at the shake that you're having now, which is the pumpkin seeds and the flaxseed oil or the flax seeds and the chia seeds, like somebody's going to look at that and say, I don't know where to start. I don't know why I would use that. Like it's really intimidating to a lot of people. It's knowing the proportions and the Shakeology to me, that's just something it's like, oh, okay, I take a scoop of this stuff, I put it in water or milk, I put some frozen fruit in, I mix it up. And what it does is it gives you that experience of, oh, wait, I can actually feel better. All right. Then you start moving and maybe you stay with the Shakeology, maybe you go to other things. But to me, it's kind of like that first kickstart. But then you get to the point where now you're really mixing and matching all these different raw ingredients. And that's a really powerful place to be.
And this diet, when you first go and buy all the stuff, it's like, this is a little expensive. Because, I was shocked when I bought steak and I tried to get grass-fed beef. And I'm like, $8 for like a 5-ounce piece, $16 for 2 of them. It's like, wow. But the hemp seeds, chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, they cost a little money, but they've also been sitting in the jar now for like 3 months, and I use a tablespoon a day. So once you get over that first hit of spending more money, listen, McDonald's is cheaper, but in the end, the argument is, in the end, is it really cheaper?
Exactly. And that's the huge argument, is that the McDonald's is cheap. Buying regular, quote unquote, USDA choice steak is super cheap, but that's because you're not actually even eating meat anymore. There's so many things in there that aren't meat that are so bad for you that it's not even like eating real food. And yes, it's something you're paying for up front, but the analogy that I've used in the past is it's like a 401k for your health, where when you're putting money in your 401k, that money's just gone. Like you might as well throw it in the toilet. But then all of a sudden, magically, when you're older, it all comes back to you and you're like, holy cow, all this money is here that I can now use, right? Your health is no different. If you're going to be spending that $1 a day, getting that $1 Big Mac or whatever the deal of the day is at McDonald's, your bank account's going to look better because of it. But then all of a sudden you're going to hit that point where you're 65 and you're going to look into your health 401k and you're going to say, it's empty. There's nothing here. What am I going to do, right? And that's why I really believe that in making the investment now in your health will pay off in so many dividends later on. But you're right, it's tough. When you look at a bag of chia seeds or you look at a Big Mac, you're like, oh my God, like, are you kidding me? It's all about the long term, not the short term.
Yeah. And listen, obviously to a starving person, eating McDonald's or eating any kind of fast food is a step in the right direction, right? But that's about it, right? At that point, when you're not starving anymore, you have to move on to something better. And I think from everything I read, they're really feeling it now. McDonald's, it's really hitting
Well, and
them
it's
right
about
now.
time. I mean, based on everything that they've done to culture and I mean, it's not like all of this are things they just didn't know. It's not like they were providing a service to society. They said, what's the absolute minimum viable product that we can put on the market that tastes like food but doesn't actually contain anything nutritious whatsoever, and give it at the cheapest amount possible and sell the most. That's been their objective, and now they're paying for that. And now finally, food companies are starting to see that too. And because of, I think largely because of the internet and the fact that people like I and other people doing this have a voice, they're realizing, wait a second, people don't want to eat all this junk anymore. We might actually have to do something about this. Because when I was a kid in the 80s, the only thing that I had to educate me about food was television. And you see the cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs guy and the Fruit Loops and the Tony the Tiger, like, oh, well, fortified with vitamin C. Oh, well, Frosted Flakes must be healthy, right? That was my education. You can't do that anymore. Like, these food companies just can't get away with that because of all the information online. And it's finally starting to hit them, and it's finally starting to hurt them. And I think we're really going to see a big change over the next 2 decades, no different than we saw in the change in the tobacco industry. And that's really exciting to me.
Yeah, one thing going back a little bit, as a kid, an overweight kid, like I was always subjected to that one thing. And anyone out there that's skinny who's done it, this is your lesson to not do it. I loved being told, just stop eating, just don't eat it. And you see that a lot on television. It's a tough thing. I'm in the middle here. Like, I don't want the government to tell me, I like when Bloomberg tried to get rid of a certain size soda, because it's like, believe me, if someone wants double the size, they'll buy two, I'm not a big fan of that. At the same time, I know that I could not stop. You know what I mean? I was addicted at a young age. It was a vicious cycle. At a young age, I would come home from being picked on for being overweight in school. And the only thing that was there that made me feel better was crappy food. And I ate that and it made me feel better for a few minutes. And it's a vicious cycle that goes back and forth and back and forth, and not knowing what does that. I always thought when people are like saying, well, people that are depressed, eat more. And I'm like, well, I'm not really depressed. And I'm like, well, wait a second. My idea of depression is sitting in bed and crying for 2 weeks. That's not all people. Maybe it's simply that I had a bad conversation with a friend on the phone, or someone didn't call me back. And next thing you know, I find myself finding whatever I can in the refrigerator to eat. Now, I know that's not everybody's experience in life, but that thin person that didn't have that experience in life can't stop smoking cigarettes, and they can't, or they have this addiction or they have that addiction. The difference between all the addictions is you don't need a cigarette to live, but you need food to live. So tell the person who's addicted to smoking 2 packs a day, you can only have 5 cigarettes a day. See how good that goes, and it's not the same thing. So this is something, and I kind of believe that I may have found it here with the sugar was the thing that was bringing me back constantly to the refrigerator, whereas now I'm not. Now I know that when I'm at someone else's house, I'm still tempted. When you go to some houses and you see all the food, like, how many different boxes of cookies can you own? And it's like shocking that there's people that still, I know people that still have takeout every night come into their house, like such bad food every night. And I know I'm a freelancer and I have some time in the morning and at night to do these things. I know it's much tougher if you have a 9 to 5 or a 9 to 9 to do these kind of things. I mean, I know it's much easier for me when I don't, because I've had both types of jobs. So I would just say you have to pinpoint these different things, maybe try the 10-day detox and see if this is the thing that makes it happen for you. Because it may not be, but hey.
Well, you've hit the nail on the head when you say, I think I may have figured it out with it being the sugar. You didn't maybe figure it out, you nailed it. I mean, there's no question that the number one component of the obesity epidemic that this entire country and world is dealing with right now is simple sugars and processed foods and the processed flours. And there's no question that is the root cause. There's a lot of other things, but that's kind of where it starts. And I love that you brought up the 10-day detox diet. It was a great place that we went today that I didn't even expect. So that's fantastic.
And I'm not being paid for that, by the way.
No, of course not.
No affiliation.
Yeah. So, and I, I'll put a link up to the book so everybody can find it. It's something I haven't been through myself, but I am absolutely going to look into it and learn more about it. I know a lot about Dr. Mark Hyman. I've listened to a lot of his podcasts, read his website, read his interviews. I haven't done the specific book myself, but I'm going to look into it.
And don't I tell people, you don't have to read the whole book. Get the plan, get the food, read the first chapter or two, and you'll find over the 10 days, you'll go back and you'll go, okay, what's going on here, or why this or why that? And you'll go and you could pick out different things. But don't let that be another form of procrastination that I have to read the whole book before I start it. You don't.
And most likely, once you start to implement it, you're going to see such great changes. You're going to say, oh, now I want to continue reading. So it's everybody just says all or nothing. Oh my God, if I don't finish the whole book, I failed and I haven't done it right. Just start. Just do a little bit. Take that tiny snowball, put it at the top of the mountain, push it down, and see what happens. Like that. That's the way that I approach it.
He got a one thing that helped me a lot is he put out a cookbook with 150 recipes. So, listen, I'm a simple guy. I break it down to like 3 recipes I like and I change them up. And then I switch it around a little bit. When I'm bored, I move things around. It's easy to kind of find like, well, I'm really bored with what I have for lunch. So, okay, let me bring this in, let me bring in some salmon, and stuff like that, and get rid of the eggs for a week and just switch it up and then switch back. And that's the key. Don't be bored. The 10 days, it's going to be like almost the same thing every day. But after that, just make sure you mix stuff up and you have a little fun with cooking again, which I find nice to actually sit there for 20 minutes and cook up a meal. I kind of appreciate it more than throw it in the microwave for 2 minutes.
It's a very healthy way to do it. It can actually become a very meditative, relaxing experience. It is for me. It's something that I look forward to when I do have time, which is not often, but when I do, I actually enjoy the process of cooking or learning a new recipe. So we're at the point where we're running a little bit over, which I'm totally fine with because this has just been fantastic and I don't want to cut out a single word. But lastly, before we go, I just want to make sure that people know how to find you, how to find the really, really inspiring work that you've done, and just learn more about what you do for a living and the projects that you've done.
Sure. You can go to thedogfiles.com, DOGFILES. I have all my episodes there. I'm working on some new stuff. You could contact me on Twitter at Ken Bell, KENNBELL, 2 N's, 2 L's, or at Dogfiles, either one. Be on the lookout for the ASPCA documentary in the fall or winter. Might wind up being 216 because everything we have to do with it. And I'm always looking for interesting projects. I try and do stuff that actually makes a difference. It's really nice. I kind of wandered into this territory, and I really like the feeling I get when I actually do something that might change people. I've had people from across the entire world contact me and tell me that they play my Dogfile episodes in front of their students, and it has changed people's attitudes toward animals. And that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's powerful. And I'm really hoping that this podcast will do the same thing for people that are listening and saying, well, you know what? I'm 300 pounds right now and I've yo-yo dieted, but listening to this guy has made me realize that there is another way it can be done. So not only are you inspiring people to take better care of animals and do all the work that you're doing there, but I really hope that now your personal journey is going to inspire people in this industry or anybody listening to say, you know what? It can be done. So Ken, this has just been absolutely fantastic. I'm so glad we were finally able to make this happen. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh yeah, it's been great, and hopefully I could come back when I hit 199. Oh yeah, that's my goal.
You hit 199, I guarantee you've got a spot on this show, my friend.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you for listening to episode 49 of the Fitness in Post podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to access any of the resources discussed, visit our show notes at fitnessinpost.com/49. If you're looking for ways to get more motivated to be more active at the office or elsewhere, I highly suggest that you check out our Fitness in Post Fitbit leaderboard, which now has almost 200 members. All you need to do is track your activity to win great prizes from our awesome sponsors, which include Adobe, Boris Effects, which now includes Mocha, Gen Arts, the creator of the Sapphire plugin package, G-Tech, Calton Nutrition, Isotope, and That Studio. To learn more, just visit fitnessinpost.com/Fitbit. Lastly, if you haven't checked it out yet, I highly recommend a visit to the Fitness and Post store, where we have listed all the products and resources that we use on a regular basis that help us to not only survive this industry, but thrive. To see all the great stuff that we recommend, including exercise equipment for the office, supplements, books and movies, and many other items, just visit store.fitnessandpost.com. Thank you for listening. Be well.